The Hangout is live. Welcome everybody. My name is Brian Kwong. I'm the creator of the Add1Challenge. And we have a polyglot Jan here. How you doing, Jan?
Yeah, fine. Fine. I'm in the tropics here in Sri Lanka, so can't complain. I'm outside. It's not cold. So yeah, this time not missing the European winter. I'm fine, thank you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know, I'm in Thailand, so it's I'm kind of used to people wearing t-shirts.
Okay, you need to see the European winter. So this is Oslo.
Oh
There you
no.
go.
I don't really want to see.
Oh, what's that?
You need a taste of it. It's the last 2 days. It's nothing but bewolkt, nothing but clouds.
Nothing but clouds. Wow.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey man, hey Kyle, how you doing?
Pretty good. Just running off of 3G again, so not going to be able to do any video.
It's all good. It's all good. So here today we have a burning question for Jan. Jan's a polyglot. I met him in Hungary, in Budapest for the first time in the polyglot conference. Really awesome guy. The first time we spoke, it was like in English, and then like all of a sudden he just starts speaking Mandarin to me. I'm like, oh, this guy speaks Mandarin, and then he became, yes, and he became like a friend. He like a brother, and then he starts speaking Cantonese. I'm like,
only because of that. Huh?
Well, no, yes.
yes. Okay. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I will remember that.
That has a big part to do with it, you know.
Okay.
And then yeah, so now we become good friends, and we see each other like at least once or twice a year at the conference, and yeah, and so he's here today to answer some of the burning questions from the people who are participating in the Add1Challenge. Add1Challenge is where we all aim together to be able to hold a 15-minute conversation in 90 days in our target language. So we're a few people who are in the Add1Challenge right now, taking on their own target language. So let's start off. Let's jump right in. So who has a question?
I have a question.
All right, cool.
Yes.
The Dutch. I'm at B1 level in Dutch.
Okay.
Since my Dutch is imperfect, and a lot of the people don't like to put up with me, especially if it's just one Dutch. If it's a group of Dutch, then they'll put up with me more. But if it's only one,
I see.
Then they'll get tired of it and they want English.
I see.
At what point should I give up, or should I persist?
Yeah, man, this is a thing I also always struggle with, especially like if you want to practice languages like Dutch or also Norwegian, all the Scandinavian languages, I think. So I think what you should do, at least what I always do, is I always try to just speak the target language, the language that you are learning all the way from the beginning. And just be very patient. They will keep responding to you in English, but just keep insisting. If you really feel that the people are going to be frustrated, or they find it strange that you try to speak Dutch all the time, then maybe it depends on the friendship, the kind of friendship that you have with this person. But otherwise, it might be just better to find someone online and just speak the language with that person until you reach, I don't know, a level at which the native speaker does accept that you're still not fluent yet, and does agree to have a conversation with you in that language. So I would say give it a try, but if you see that it doesn't work and the person starts feeling uncomfortable, then just try to find other ways to practice the language and do it online. That's how I do it. I do have friends like Lucas, for example, the Brazilian guy that did this burning question session the last time, and he is really good at insisting speaking the language that he is learning. Well, I'm not like that. It depends on your personality. So if you don't feel comfortable, then I would say in this case, find someone else. Maybe pay for it.
Yeah. Okay.
Just make sure that that everyone feels comfortable. I think feeling comfortable is important to maintaining friendships. Like, not everyone has to be a language partner. You can also have just friends and just people you practice languages with.
All right. So let's go to a question from the Add1Challenger, but he's not here right now. He asked, Jan, I've watched your Cantonese video with Brian. I'm learning Cantonese.
Yeah.
Can you go more in depth of your method and routine in preparation for that conversation? Also, what your level of Cantonese right now?
Okay, for that conversation, I don't think we did much preparation, did we, Brian?
No, we just start speaking.
I think we started speaking and then you just started recording. So there was not really a lot of preparation for particularly that video. But what I did do in the previous 3 months before that is, okay, first I have to mention that I did speak Mandarin already, which helps a lot. What I did do, I just took classes 3 times a week. I only did speaking. I did only speaking classes, and I just started with the simple things, with the most important words and the most important verbs. I always start with when learning a language. I like to go, I speak, I like to speak, I don't want to speak, I don't want to go, I want to go to China. You know, all these basic sentences, and then you just make them more difficult every time. I want to go to China because I like China. I like to go to Hong Kong because I have friends in Hong Kong, you know, because it's always the same sentences that you get every time if you hold a conversation in a language that you're just learning with a native speaker. You always get the same question. So I would just focus on these things. Well, I basically just did that for 3 months, yeah, and then I reached that level. So there was not a magical. I didn't use a magical method or something. Just a lot of speaking, and and when I do speak with my teacher. I always make notes. So if there are new words, I always write them down. I try to write down the tones as well, so I don't remember them. I don't do that with numbers, but I just add like little symbols or little icons that I understand for myself. I revise them after the class. Yeah, and I did that for 3 months, 3 times a week. That's what I did.
I think it's very important that it sounds like nothing, but nothing special, but when he say he did it for 3 months, he really did it for 3 months, 3 times a week. You gotta understand that. If you don't put in the work and don't do it for consistently, you're not gonna get the result. It's very simple.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that really helped, and I think when I participated in that Add1Challenge, I actually did that for the first time. Like for the first time, I learned a language very consistently, 3 times a week, 1 hour. I never did that before, so yeah, that really gave my Cantonese a boost. Of course, as I said, I did speak Mandarin already, which helped. I had been to Hong Kong before. I had listened to Cantonese songs. I already had some kind of feeling for Cantonese, but I never got to speak it as the way I did in that conversation. So yeah, consistency is important, and I guess that's where this challenge is for, right?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's get a question from the Hangout. Who has a question?
I have one.
All right.
Yeah, I am currently learning Hungarian for my challenge, and don't have a ton of time to dedicate to it. Like sometimes it's a struggle to get in my 30 minutes a day because I'm also working on Portuguese again in Brazil and really busy with friends here and traveling and just general life stuff and work on top of that. So I'm wondering, it's come to my attention recently after like a very bad session with a teacher that I literally didn't understand a single sentence the first time. It was very disappointing. My listening comprehension is by far my weakest aspect. I think for the first time ever, I can genuinely speak better than I can understand, just because every other language I've ever learned, like actually learned, not just like half-assed attempted to learn, has been in the country. So I've been constantly surrounded by the language, which obviously helps massively. So I'm wondering, having such limited time and learning in a totally different country with no in-person exchanges, no exposure to the language other than when I can like get my music listening in, what do you think the best ways and that are actually enjoyable and fun are to increase like listening comprehension, but just of normal everyday questions and conversations between people?
Do you know, because you say you're in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
Do you know any Hungarian people there? Is there an Hungarian community or something?
I found
Can you find something?
one. There are 60,000 people on Couchsurfing in São Paulo. Of those, 9 speak Hungarian, and of those 9, only 1 answered me. And I've met up with her a few times, but generally she kind of just gets she speaks really quickly and doesn't. She's not a language exchange partner, and she's also like a busy person, and we don't see each other very often. And usually it's in like a loud, crowded environment, so it's not the easiest thing to understand and learn from.
Yes. Back to the question. So yeah, you're learning Hungarian. You are in Brazil, and you don't have so much time. Yeah, like Benny Lewis always says, and not only Benny Lewis, many polyglots always say that it's not necessary to be in a country to learn a language, and I think that's 100% true. But I have to agree, and I think you also know that it's much easier if you are in a country, if you have those people around you, if you have all these experience in the language. Then you have another problem, and that's that you don't have so much time. Well, for the personal contact, yeah, I would say, I know iTalki or Skype or whatever is not personal contact, but I think it's the best kind of contact that you can get. And additionally, of course, you can look for people in the neighborhood. I don't know if you can, if they are interested in language learning, or maybe you could organize an exchange with them. I'm not sure if they're interested in that. I would give that a try. In terms of time, and if you want to improve your listening skill for Hungarian, man, I've never done it. I would say I've never studied a language like that. I would say, do you know Hungarian music? Do you have Hungarian friends that can recommend your music, translate the lyrics?
I have tons of music. Like I'm basically whenever I have free, I love the stuff I have. I'm constantly listening to more music, but it's not like it does help a lot. But it is definitely not the same kind of experience as hearing someone in a conversation asking questions, just because of the different style of speech and rhythm and words used.
What I also find helpful sometimes is watching videos of non-native speakers speaking Hungarian, because on YouTube,
interesting.
On YouTube, for example, because like those people, including me, speaking a language for the first time in front of a webcam or whatever, like this is very basic stuff, right? My name is, I am from, I learned Hungarian because. So that's also a thing that I tend to do when I learn a language, because like those very basic. Of course, you need to make sure that what you are learning is correct with a native speaker. But I think those things help. Do you use a book or something? Is there a method that you use?
No, just basically the only thing that doesn't bore me to death studying is music and talking with people. And talking with people is hard because the internet here is horrendous. Like, I'm lucky I can be on this call right now.
So you're not the study type. You're not the one like that learns from books. That has never worked for you. No, I have to try it. I will give that
especially
a try.
When I have so little time.
Oh, you can't.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't.
Well, no, I can. I have, but only books that interest me, like not textbooks, like stories and things that I find interesting.
Yeah, but the problem of that is that it's too difficult. I know.
Yeah. I do have Glossica.
You do have Glossica. Yeah, Glossica is also not really for beginner level, especially if you don't understand how the language works.
So let's do another question.
Yes.
Because for you, Kyle, I mean, the only way if you want to improve comprehension is to listen to more people speaking. I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah. I would say otherwise give it a try, and then a simple course. I don't know any good resources for Hungarian, but I would say like try simple resources, and then to make it more fun, try to do these dialogues with someone online.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
that's what I would say. Yeah. Let's go next.
Let's get a question.
I have a question.
All right.
Yes.
So how do you know when to like stop learning not really stop, take a break and move on to the next language? Yeah. And how do you know which language to choose from? Because right now my Dutch is already at B2 level, and I feel like I'm maxed out without being in the Netherlands. So I'm thinking to like move on to next language. Yeah.
I think this has all to do with your personal motivation and well, basically with your personal motivation. So what is your goal? What do you want to reach? Or what do you want to do? What do you want to do with the language? Do you want to do business in the language? Do you just want to travel to the country? Do you just want to learn the basics? So this really has to do with your personal goals, with your personal motivation. For example, an important reason why I like to learn languages, well, so many reasons. Actually, it's different for every language. But let's say sometimes I also learn a language just in order to make it more easy for myself to travel. Next year, I'm planning to travel to more Russian-speaking countries. So I think next year I'm going to give Russian a try. It's just something that helps me to reach the goal of getting the full experience of traveling to countries where they speak Russian. So I think this has to do with your personal goals, with what you want to reach, with your ambition in the language.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So
yeah, that's it.
all right. So let's go with a question with the email. Add1Challenge email list. So let's see. How do you find your initial motivation for learning a language, and how are you able to stay motivated to complete your goal of 10 languages?
I think the first thing is you have to set a big goal for yourself, right? So I think this goal to learn 10 languages before my 30s, I think I set it 3 or 4 years ago. And I think it's important to set a big goal for yourself. It's just a small goal is not challenging, so you need to set a challenging goal. Well, the first place you need to set a goal. That's what many people forget, I think. So the goal itself motivates me. Traveling motivates me. Meeting native speakers motivates a lot. Building a relationship with the people you meet motivates. Work on your languages every day and see your progress. I think is a very big motivation. Those things motivate me.
Cool. I think when you say that, it's really interesting, because I think everybody has a different kind of ways that motivates you. You know, sometimes goals motivate you, but sometimes punishment motivates you. You know, or so I think it's very. So I think when it's an exploration in itself to find out what motivates you. You know, so if you don't know what motivates you, just because it motivates Jan doesn't mean it will motivate you. You know what I'm saying? So find out, learn, and explore, and see what motivates you, and also going back in your life and see when did I go crazy and start learning this and doing this thing, and no matter what, why did I do that? Like why did I do that back then? No, let me try this in language learning. See if this works.
I think that, if I'm not mistaken, Alex Rawlings once he mentioned in an interview that before you start learning a language, that the most important thing you should do is make a list of 100 reasons why you want to learn that language. And when that is very clear, that can be a huge motivation. I always do that. Like if I say I'm gonna learn Russian, I see myself speaking Russian in the countries. I see myself reading the newspaper in Russian and get another vision on current issues that take place in the world. The why. I think that's the answer. You need to know the why. Huh?
All right, so let's take a question from the Hangout. Anybody?
I have a question. Hi,
Hey,
so I'm Troy.
Hello,
I
Troy.
just finished Add1Challenge 10 for Italian. I actually just got back from Italy a little bit over a week ago. I spent a week there. And my question is, so I've been roughly studying Italian for about the past 4 months. I started about a month before the challenge. And before that, I studied in university for about 2 semesters, so it's about 6 years ago. Right now, I feel like I'm somewhere in between a B1 and a B2 level. And my friend in Naples, who I went to go visit, kind of feels the same way. But I really want to get myself to a C1 level, at least, within the next year. But I'm just wondering, how do you go about getting yourself to that point? Because I feel like from everything that I've researched, it's one of the most difficult stages, because you've already learned 20% of the you've learned the 20% of the language, which is the most commonly daily used portion of the language, and then getting yourself to the next, I don't know, 60% of it is basically using words that are not used in common daily language.
Yes, exactly. So I asked myself the same question 1 or 2 years ago, and I had this problem with my French. I spoke it at an A1, maybe a B1, and I wanted to bring it to a good B2. and eventually I want to reach a C1 level as well. What has helped a lot with me, and also for my Portuguese, by the way, is if you're still at a B1 stage, you want to reach a B2, I think what would help is just what I would do with my teacher. If I have a B1, I want to reach a B2 level, I would just tell him random stories about experiences that I have, or about things that happened to me in the past, very in detail, just randomly, you know, for 1 hour, non-stop story. And then as soon as I don't know what to say anymore, then I will ask my teacher to ask me questions just to keep me going. And I will try to tell him the story in as many details as possible. If I don't know, I say the word in English, and the teacher writes the word for me in a Google Doc. So that's the first thing you can do. The second thing is to bring it to a higher level. You can do exactly the same. But then, for example, first you read an article or you watch a video in the language, and then you explain to your teacher where the article was about. So this is a little bit, the level is a little bit higher, because it's not just about daily things, but it's about, I don't know, politics or things that happen in the world. And I think that is what can bring you to a C1 level.
Okay.
Do you understand what I said?
Yeah, I understand, and I think that's actually a really interesting idea. I think that's a really cool idea. I never really thought about doing that way.
So there is a YouTube channel I like very much. It's called TestTube, because I'm interested in international relations and everything. And they have a lot of videos about science, international relations. So what I would do, I would watch the video for 3 minutes with my French teacher, and afterwards I tell him where the video was about. And actually, it's pretty difficult. It's not easy. But he helps me, you know, and it really enriches my vocabulary, and that's, I think, the strategy that will, well, I think I've reached the B2 already, but yeah, in order to reach the C1, I need to continue with that. That's one very useful thing that has helped for me.
Cool. Haven't heard that one. Awesome. Cool. All right, let's take another question in the Hangout. Yes.
Hi, this is Kristen. I have a question.
Hello, Kristen.
Hi.
Yes.
How are you, John? The challenge that I'm struggling with right now is about switching languages. So I just finished the Add1Challenge 10 in French, and now I'm starting the Add112 in Spanish, which I have a lot more experience with. So several times when I've tried to start speaking Spanish, French comes out, of course, and that happens when I switch back and forth. And so the solution I've used so far is to study one at a time, totally focus on it, and not touch the other language. And within a few weeks it goes away that I'm trying to switch back to the other language. But I'm a little discouraged of, well, how am I going to continue to add languages and maintain the ones I have if I can't study more than one at a time without mixing them up? I mean, I've definitely tried, like, you know, Benny recommends, have a different personality, study in a different place. I'm doing some of those things to try to keep French and Spanish separate. But I have like 10 other languages I want to learn. I'm really concerned.
I think it's good to follow those tips that Benny gave you, but to be honest, in the end, I don't think there is a trick. There's only one thing you can do, and it's maybe not the answer that you want to hear, but I'm pretty sure it's the right answer, and it's just you need more speaking practice. That's it. Just need to practice more. So you're saying that you can, that you want to focus on language, on one language. I think that's a good thing to do. So not learn Spanish and French at the same time. You just focus on Spanish, but then once a week, at least once in 2 weeks, you practice your French, and you will So now you're using French words in your Spanish. You will use Spanish words in your French. That will happen. But if you just continue with it, then after, I don't know, maybe maybe your fifth class in French that you take besides your Spanish, during Spanish, it will be much better. And then just continue like this until when you stop learning language.
And so it is right. And so it is your experience that while the brain mixes things up, that you can train it better and better over time.
Well, if
I mean,
there
I
is a
know
technique
that
for that.
I've had to switch back into Spanish a few times during the French challenge, and
Yeah.
it ended up working out, of course, but I just want, it seems harder the other way, you know, like my Spanish is much stronger, so it's easier to keep in a box, whereas now the French is, you know, I was trying to ask
it's
someone a
taking
question in
over.
Spanish the other day. I asked the whole question in French. Didn't even realize it.
Yeah. I've
So,
had exactly
okay.
the same. I would say just keep practicing all your languages
Okay.
while
All
you're
right.
on a mission. Only once per week, once in 2 weeks is enough.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll do it.
There's hope. There's hope.
There is
I
hope.
know. It's worth it anyway, even if I do mix them up, just because it's so much fun. But just curious. Thanks.
Okay.
There's hope. Thank you, Jan. Awesome. All right, Justin, you got a question? Justin? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying. Is it working? Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
It's the first time I did this. All right. What I'm trying to get over right now is the frustration of starting a brand new language after having worked for the past several years with languages where I already have an intermediate or even like anywhere from a B1 to a C1 level, and now I'm starting Korean from scratch.
Yeah.
And I'm putting a lot of time in, and I can say some things, but it's never what I need to say, you know, when I'm trying to talk with my teacher or chat partner or something.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the point now where I'm starting to feel frustrated, and I'm only a few weeks into it. So how do you deal with that when you're used to having so much success, you know, and then comfortably speaking languages when you start at the beginning with the new one?
Do you have a method, or do you have a way to start? Do you have a strategy for yourself already, or not yet? Do you know how to do it? Do you know how to start from scratch? Do you use materials? Do you have an idea how to do it? Or?
I have a lot of materials. I think one of my problems might be that I'm using too many different materials, so I'm covering the same thing in different ways. And then I'm doing, you know, I talk 3 times a week and trying to keep that up.
Okay, what I would do, I will make a list. I will make a list in Word or Excel, and I will make, let's say, a list let's start with 10 or 20 words that you find important when you learn a language. And there might be to be, to have, to give, to know, to want. You know, these are like the verbs that come back all the time. These are the most important. Like, I want to go to Korea. Like, what kind of sentences do you want to make? Thank you, the basic phrases, the most important verbs. Make a list, and then, for example, if the verb is to be, and you want to say, where are you from?
California.
Oh, you're from California. Okay, so then you see the verb to be, and you ask your teacher, how do I say to be? And then they will give you the translation, and then you ask further, how do you say I am? How do you say I am not? How do you say I have? You know, you just start to make sentences with the most common verbs. There are actually lists out there on the internet with the most common words used in a language, and I would start with that. Just with the phrases that you want to use if you travel to the country, or where do you want to use it for? Korean. Why are you?
Yeah, I mean, for traveling, for talking with friends.
For traveling, for talking with friends. Yeah, so make sure that you include phrases and sentences in that list. I am American, where are you from, how much is it? Very practical things. And then as you continue your study, just keep adding words and keep adding structures. Actually, right now, I'm working on a method that focuses on this, so that focuses on the most common phrases, on the most common verbs, and that we add words all the time. We do drills and everything. Unfortunately, it's not ready yet. Otherwise, I could have recommended it to you. But I don't know another method that. I don't know. I'm not sure if there is a Michel Thomas for Korean.
Jan, how do you? I think his question is like, how do you deal with the frustration? Do you get frustrated?
With the frustration. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, do you get frustrated when you started a brand new language when you're?
Of course I do. But first, I want to ask the question to Justin again. Do you remember when you started learning the language that you do speak already?
Yeah, I do. But this has probably been about almost 15 years since I added a brand new language. So
exactly,
it's a long time.
It's a long time ago, 15 years. But in the beginning, wasn't it not just the same frustration? And then you kept doing it, and you kept practicing, and you kept practicing, and now you're very good at those languages. So maybe you can use that as a reference to see that in order to succeed in a language, it's just a matter of time and just requires a lot of practice.
Right.
You know, if you could do it for those languages, then why not for Korean? It's just you have to find a way to make the learning process fun, and then just do it over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That's how I deal with the frustration. I look at what's possible and the reason why I'm doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's very good in terms of like going back to why you're learning it, and also finding different ways to learn a language that's fun for you. I mean, if you're frustrated, but you're doing something you like doing, it will take it off. It will take the pressure off, the stress off. And yeah, and also going back to why you're learning Korean.
Great,
cool.
Thanks.
All right. So I think that's it for today. It's 30 minutes. So Jan, is there how can we get a hold of you?
Yeah, for now just on Facebook, and then next year I will. Well, just follow me on Facebook, and then I will keep you up to date.
Follow you on Facebook. Cool.
Just follow me on Facebook, Jan van der A. I guess you have my name and the email and in this hangout here, and then next year we will come with some very practical learning materials, as I just mentioned.
All right.
So materials that focus on the most important verbs, the most important phrases that can help you getting started with the language.
Cool. And also for the people in the Add1Challenge, do you have any questions? Anything you wanna add? Say?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of a short question. Do you think in a language when you have to use it? Because sometimes I find myself, even with my native language, when I have to write an essay in Indonesian, I think in English and I translate it to Indonesian, and sometimes Dutch words randomly pop up. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think in another language. For example, now I'm thinking in English now. I'm not thinking in Dutch.
Yeah.
And it's also so when I'm talking about language learning, I basically think in English because I only speak in English about language learning. And in Chinese, for example, what do I talk about in Chinese? Actually, about many things. Well, when I talk about certain topics, I would think in Chinese. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, yes, I do. And I think it's a good thing. It means that you have a lot of association with the language.
All right. Any other questions, guys? People in here? All right. I guess that's it. So thank you for joining the hangout. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
If you want to join the next Add1Challenge, go to add1challenge.com. And yeah, and we'll open a new one in sometime January next year. Oh my God, 2015 is gone. So I'll see you guys next year. And thank you. See ya.
Okay.
Bye.
See you. Bye bye.